They grabbed her like she was nothing. 4 soldiers pinned her against the server rack, ripping at her clothes, while she begged them to stop. The fabric tore, her pants came down, and they laughed until they saw her lower back. The laughter died in their throats, because what they saw wasn't skin, it was a map. GPS coordinates burned into flesh, the kind of scar you give yourself so you never forget where you buried the people you loved. 4 trained soldiers stumbled backward. One of them started crying. They'd just tried to humiliate a ghost. And ghosts don't forgive. Want to know what those coordinates meant? Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and subscribe, because this story will change how you see every quiet person you've ever ignored. The morning Maya Chen arrived at Fort Dominion started like every other Monday she'd worked since leaving the agency. She parked her 10-year-old Honda in the contractor lot, grabbed her laptop bag, and walked toward the communications center with her head down and her shoulders slightly hunched. It was a posture she'd perfected over 2 years of civilian life, the posture of someone who wanted to disappear. The Texas heat was already brutal at 8 in the morning. Maya felt sweat forming on her neck as she approached the security checkpoint, but she didn't adjust her oversized cardigan or push up the sleeves. The cardigan stayed down, covering her forearms completely. Always. ID, please? She handed her credentials to the gate guard without meeting his eyes. Staff Sergeant Williams, according to his nameplate. Mid-50s, weathered face, the kind of career soldier who'd seen enough to stop being impressed by anything. He scanned her badge, glanced at the photo, then at her face. IT contractor. Network security audit. Building 7. You know where that is? I've been here before. Williams handed back her credentials. Have a good one, ma'am. Ma'am. She was 25 years old, and soldiers twice her age called her ma'am. Not out of respect, out of dismissal. Ma'am was what you called women who didn't matter enough to remember. Maya preferred it that way. She walked through this base with quick, efficient steps, past the motor pool where mechanics were already cursing at engines, past the parade ground where a drill sergeant was destroying some recruit's will to live, past the administrative buildings where careers were made and broken in fluorescent-lit offices. Nobody looked at her twice. That was the point. Building 7 housed the base's communications infrastructure servers, networking equipment, the digital nervous system that kept Fort Dominion connected to the rest of the military's command structure. It was also, according to her actual orders, the suspected source of an intelligence leak that had been feeding classified information to foreign actors for the past 8 months. Maya's official job routine security audit. Maya's real job, find the leak. Identify the traitor. Report to Langley, the same type of leak that had gotten her team killed in Syria 3 years ago. She pushed through the building's main entrance and signed in at the front desk. The airman on duty barely glanced at her credentials before pointing toward the server room. Down the hall, last door on the left. The Signal Corps guys are already in there. Thank you. Sure thing. Maya walked down the corridor, her sneakers silent on the tile floor. She could hear voices ahead. Male voices, loud, the kind of conversation that stopped when women entered the room. She'd heard that kind of conversation before. Usually right before someone decided to test whether the quiet girl would fight back. She paused outside the server room door, adjusted her glasses, and took a breath. Then she walked in. The room was exactly what she expected. Rows of server racks humming with processing power, cables running like arteries along the ceiling, climate control keeping everything at a precise 68 degrees, and 4 soldiers clustered around a workstation, their conversation dying the moment they saw her. Can I help you? The speaker was young, maybe 24, with the kind of face that probably got him whatever he wanted in high school. Specialist Derek Vance, according to the name on his uniform. He looked at Maya the way people looked at furniture they were considering moving. I'm here for the security audit. Maya Chen Vertex Solutions. The what now? Security audit. Your CO should have briefed you. Vance exchanged glances with the other 3 soldiers. PFC Tommy Reeves, baby-faced, and holding a phone like it was an extension of his hand. PFC Marcus Webb, built like a linebacker and clearly proud of it. PFC James Keller, older than the others, late 20s, watching Maya with an expression she couldn't read. Nobody briefed us about anything, Vance said. You sure you're in the right building? Building 7, Communications Center. Network security audit scheduled for 0800. Maya pulled out her tablet and showed him the work order. It's all in the system. Vance barely glanced at it. Yeah, well, we've got actual work to do. Maybe come back after lunch. The audit is scheduled for today. And I'm telling you to come back later. Maya had dealt with men like Vance before, in training, in the field, in every military facility she'd ever worked. Men who saw a small woman and immediately calculated how easily they could push her around. The calculation was always wrong, but they never figured that out until it was too late. She could push back, pull rank, remind him that her security clearance exceeded his by several classification levels, but that would draw attention. And attention was the one thing she couldn't afford. Fine, I'll start with the secondary systems. She walked past him toward a different workstation, keeping her eyes on her tablet like she was reading something important. Hey, Vance's voice sharpened. I didn't say you could go anywhere. Maya stopped, turned. Excuse me, I said come back later. That means leave, not wander around our facility unsupervised. I'm not unsupervised. I'm a cleared contractor with authorized access to this facility. You're a civilian in a military building. Vance stepped close enough that Maya could smell his cologne, something aggressive and expensive that didn't match his pay grade. And I'm telling you that your access is denied until I verify your credentials. My credentials are in the system. Systems can be hacked. The other soldiers had spread out slightly, not surrounding her exactly, but positioning themselves in a way that limited her exits. It was a formation they probably didn't even realize they were making. Pack behavior. Predator instinct. Reeves had his phone out recording. Of course he was. Look. Maya kept her voice calm. Reasonable. The voice of someone who didn't want trouble. I'm just here to do my job. Run some diagnostics, check your firewall configurations, file a report. I'll be out of your hair in a few hours. Your job? Vance smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Your job is whatever we say it is while you're in our building. Isn't that right, boys? Webb laughed. Damn right. So, here's what's going to happen. Vance was enjoying himself now. You're going to put down that tablet, show us some proper identification, and wait here while we verify that you are who you say you are. I already showed you my ID at the checkpoint. I'm not talking about your badge. Vance's eyes dropped deliberately to her body. I'm talking about proper verification. Maya felt the shift in the room, the way the air thickened with something ugly. She'd felt it before, in a basement in Damascus, in a warehouse in Raqqa, in a dozen places where men decided that women were things to be used, rather than people to be respected. She could end this, right now. 4 soldiers who thought they were predators, but were really just prey that hadn't figured out the food chain yet. She could put all 4 of them on the ground in under 6 seconds without breaking a sweat. But that would blow her cover, and the mission was more important than her dignity. So she did what she'd learned to do in situations like this. She made herself smaller, let her shoulders drop, let her voice waver just slightly. Please, I just want to do my job. Vance grinned at the fear he thought he heard. That's better. Now we're communicating. Keller spoke up for the first time. Derek, maybe we should just let her— Shut up, James. Vance didn't take his eyes off Maya. The adults are talking. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't remember asking what you think. Vance moved closer to Maya, close enough that she could see the pores on his face. Here's the thing about civilians on military installations. You're guests, and guests behave themselves or they get escorted off the property. Understand? Maya nodded. Small. Compliant. Exactly what he wanted to see. Good girl. He reached out and flicked her badge with his finger. Now let's see that proper identification. I don't know what you mean. I mean, we need to verify you're not carrying any unauthorized electronics. His smile widened. New security protocols. Very thorough. Very hands-on. Webb moved to her left. Reeves circled to her right, phone still recording. Keller hung back, his face tight with something that might have been conscience. This isn't procedure, Maya said. I've done dozens of audits. This isn't... Are you arguing with me? Vance's voice dropped. Dangerous now. Because I really don't appreciate being argued with. No, I'm not arguing. You just what? Maya's heart was beating faster now. Not from fear, from calculation. How far would this go before she had to break cover? How much could she absorb before instinct took over and she put Vance's head through the server rack behind him? Please. She let her voice crack, just slightly. I'll come back later. Like you said, I'll come back after lunch and... Changed my mind. Vance grabbed her arm, hard. You're here now. Might as well get that verification done. Let go of me. Or what? Maya felt her training screaming at her. Rotate the wrist, strike the throat, knee to the groin, elbow to the temple. 4 moves, 4 seconds, 4 unconscious bodies. But Reeves was still recording. And somewhere in this building was a traitor she needed to find. And the mission was more important than her dignity. She went limp instead. Stopped resisting. Let Vance think he'd won. That's better. He nodded at Webb. Hold her arms. Webb grabbed her from behind, pinning her arms against her body. He was strong, much stronger than he needed to be. Maya felt the bruises forming already. Now then. Vance stood in front of her, his face flushed with power. Let's see what you're hiding. I'm not hiding anything. Everyone's hiding something. He reached for the hem of her cardigan. Let's start with this. Maya's mind raced. The cardigan covered the scars on her arms. Scars that told a story she couldn't explain without revealing everything. If they saw those marks, don't. Her voice came out harder than she intended. Please don't. Vance paused. Something flickered in his eyes, curiosity mixed with cruelty. Don't what? Don't do my job. Don't protect this facility from potential security threats. I'm not a threat. Then you won't mind proving it. He pulled the cardigan down her shoulders. Maya didn't resist. Resistance would only make it worse. The fabric slipped down her arms, exposing the thin t-shirt underneath. But not the scars. Not yet. The t-shirt sleeves covered most of them. Vance studied her arms, looking disappointed. Nothing to hide, after all. I told you. We're not done. He grabbed the bottom of her t-shirt. Security protocols require a thorough inspection. You can't, I can do whatever I want. His voice had dropped to a whisper. Just for her. Just between them. Who's going to stop me? You're nothing. Nobody. A contractor that nobody will miss. Keller stepped forward. Derek, this is going too far. I said shut up. Vance didn't turn around. One more word, and you're on report. This is assault. This is security verification. Vance's grip tightened on Maya's shirt. And if you don't like it, you can wait outside. Keller hesitated. Maya could see the war on his face, conscience versus consequences. Career versus character. The calculation that everyone made when they watched something wrong happen. He looked away first. That's what I thought. Vance turned back to Maya. Now, where were we? He yanked her shirt up, exposing her stomach. Maya felt the cold air hit her skin, felt Webb's grip tighten behind her, felt Reeves moving closer with his phone zooming in. Not bad. Vance ran his eyes over her exposed skin like he was appraising merchandise. Little skinny for my taste, but please stop. We're just getting started. He reached for her waistband. His fingers hooked into the top of her pants, pulling at the fabric. No. Maya's voice came out different now, harder. I'm telling you to stop. And I'm telling you to shut up. He yanked. The button popped. The zipper ripped. Maya felt her pants being torn down her hips, the fabric giving way under force. It wasn't designed to resist. And then something changed. The hands holding her went slack. Not because Webb let go, because Webb saw what had been exposed. What the hell? His voice was barely a whisper. Derek, look at her back. Vance was still grinning, still high on his own power. What about it? Just look. Maya felt the air hit her lower back. The scar. They could see the scar now. Vance stepped around her, his smile fading as he saw what the others were seeing. What is that? The scar was massive. It started at her spine and spread outward like a starburst, the tissue raised and discolored even 3 years later. But that wasn't what made the soldiers freeze. It was the coordinates, burned into her flesh deliberately and permanently, 35.9375 to N 39.094 Tijars E, numbers that someone had carved into their own body with surgical precision, numbers that turned skin into a memorial, numbers that marked a location where something terrible had happened. Those are coordinates, Reeves whispered. His phone was shaking now. Those are actual GPS coordinates. That's not a tattoo. Webb had released Maya completely, stepping back like she was radioactive. That's burned in. She burned that into herself. What kind of person burns coordinates into their own back? Maya stood very still. Her pants were around her knees. Her shirt was pushed up. Her scars were exposed to 4 men who'd wanted to hurt her and were now realizing they might have made a terrible mistake. She didn't try to cover herself, didn't reach for her clothes, just stood there with a stillness that was suddenly terrifying rather than submissive. You wanted to see what I was hiding. Her voice was ice now. No fear, no weakness, just cold, flat truth. Now you see. What is that? Vance had lost his swagger completely. What happened to you? Something you couldn't imagine in your worst nightmares. The server room door crashed open. Chief Warrant Officer Samuel Tate stood in the doorway, his coffee cup shattered on the floor, brown liquid pooling around his boots. He was 42 years old, 20 years Army intelligence, and one of the few people at Fort Dominion who had clearance to know what those coordinates meant, because Samuel Tate had been the intelligence analyst who received the sole survivor report from Operation Blackwater Crossing 3 years ago. He'd read the after-action report before it was shredded. He'd seen the satellite imagery of the ambush site. He'd analyzed the intelligence that had been carried 40 miles through ISIS territory by an operative with a bullet lodged against her spine, an operative who was supposed to be dead, an operative who was now standing half-naked in his communications center, surrounded by 4 soldiers who had no idea they'd just assaulted one of the most classified personnel in the United States intelligence community. Everybody freeze. Tate's voice carried the kind of authority that came from making life-and-death decisions in places where the wrong choice meant body bags and folded flags. Don't move. Don't speak. Don't even breathe. Vance turned his face, cycling through confusion fear and desperate self-justification. "Sir, we were just conducting a security verification. I said don't speak." Tate walked into the room, his eyes fixed on Maya. Or rather fixed on the scar on her back. "Reeves, give me your phone." "Sir, I wasn't—" "Give me your phone right now or I will have you arrested for recording classified personnel without authorization." Reeves handed it over with trembling fingers. Tate looked at the screen, saw what had been recorded. His face went pale, then red, then something beyond color, something that lived in the space between rage and horror. "Do you have any idea," he said quietly, "what you've done? Sir, she's just a contractor. She's not just anything." Tate turned to face Vance fully. "Those coordinates you saw, 35.9375 north, 39.94 east. Do you know what happened at those coordinates?" Vance shook his head. "I don't know the details. Nobody does. Because the operation that happened there was classified at levels that exceed my clearance, and I've got clearance most people don't know exists." Tate stepped closer to Vance. "But I do know one thing. I know that an American team went into that location and didn't come back. And I know that one person walked out. One person with a bullet in their spine carrying intelligence that prevented attacks on American soil." Vance's face had gone gray. "But she's just a tech girl." "She's not a tech girl." Tate's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "She's a ghost. And you just tried to strip search her in front of your buddies." The room was silent, except for the hum of servers and the distant sound of someone's phone receiving a text message. Maya still hadn't moved, still hadn't tried to cover herself. She stood with her pants around her knees and her scars exposed like she was waiting for something. A signal. A decision. A moment that would determine what happened next. Tate turned to her. His voice changed completely soft now, almost reverent. "Ma'am, I'm going to step outside and make some calls. I'm going to get you clothes. And then, if you're willing, I'd like to have a conversation about what brought you to my facility." Maya finally moved. Slowly, deliberately, she reached down and pulled up her pants, buttoned them, straightened her shirt, smoothed down her cardigan. When she was fully dressed again, she looked at Tate with eyes that had seen things he couldn't imagine. "I'm willing to talk," she said. "But first I have a question for you." "Anything." 3 years ago, Operation Blackwater Crossing was compromised by an intelligence leak. My team was ambushed because someone sold their location to the enemy. Maya's voice was steady, but something burned beneath the surface. That leak was never found, and 6 months ago, similar information started appearing on enemy networks. Information that could only have come from this facility. Tate's face went very still. "You're saying, I'm saying I didn't come here to audit your firewall." Maya looked at the 4 soldiers who had tried to humiliate her. At Reeves clutching his phone. At Webb trying to disappear into the server racks. At Keller, who had objected and then backed down. At Vance, whose career was evaporating with every passing second. "I came here to find a traitor," she said, "and I always find what I'm looking for." Tate stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to the soldiers with a voice like grinding stone. "You 4 are confined to quarters pending investigation. You will speak to no one about what happened here. You will not discuss Ms. Chen, her appearance, her scars, or anything else you witnessed. If I find out any of you has shared this information in any form, verbal, digital, written, or otherwise, I will personally ensure you spend the rest of your natural lives in Leavenworth. Do I make myself clear?" 4 voices answered in unison. "Yes, sir." "Get out." They ran. When the door closed behind them, Tate turned back to Maya. His hand was shaking slightly, the tremor of a man who'd just realized he was standing in the presence of history. "Blackwater Crossing," he said quietly. "I read the report before they destroyed it. 1 survivor. No name, no photo, just a designation. Operative 7. Maya said nothing. The intelligence you carried out of Syria, it stopped a chemical weapons attack on Chicago. 200,000 people didn't die because you walked 40 miles with a bullet in your spine. Still nothing. My brother was in Mosul 3 years ago. His unit was going to be ambushed. They didn't know it. Nobody knew it. But someone got intelligence to command just in time. Someone who was supposed to be dead. Maya met his eyes for the first time. Really met them. I never got a name, Tate said. Never got a face. But I've spent 3 years wondering who saved my brother's life. The silence stretched between them, filled with things that couldn't be said, and questions that couldn't be asked. Finally, Maya spoke. "Those coordinates on my back," she said. "That's where I left my team. 6 people who trusted me to get them home. I couldn't save them, so I carry them now, every day, forever." You saved their mission. Their mission was supposed to end with them alive. Maya's voice cracked just slightly before she smoothed it back to steel. It didn't. Tate wanted to say something comforting, something about honor and sacrifice and duty, but he'd been in the military long enough to know that those words meant nothing to someone who'd paid the actual price. So he said the only thing that mattered, "What do you need from me?" Maya looked at the server racks, at the blinking lights and humming processors, at the digital nervous system that connected Fort Dominion to the rest of the world. "Someone in this building is selling secrets," she said. "The same type of secrets that got my team killed. I'm going to find them, and when I do, I'm going to make sure they never hurt anyone again." "And those 4 soldiers?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "That depends. On what? On whether they can learn from what happened today." She turned back to Tate. "I could destroy their lives. Everything they did is on camera. I could have them court-martialed, discharged, imprisoned. I could make sure they never forget this day for as long as they live. But I've destroyed enough lives." The words came out tired. "I've seen enough endings. What I want now is beginnings, changes, the chance for people to become better than their worst moments." Tate studied her face, seeing things there that most people would miss. The lines around her eyes that came from too many sleepless nights, the tension in her jaw that never quite relaxed, the way she held her hands loose, ready, always prepared for violence, even when she didn't want it. "You're not what I expected," he said. "What did you expect? I don't know. Someone harder, maybe. Someone who'd want revenge." Maya almost smiled. "Almost. I've had my revenge. 3 years ago in a basement in Raqqa. The men who killed my team, I found them. Every single one." The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. And they're not finding anyone anymore." Tate felt a chill run down his spine. Not fear exactly, more like awe. The awe of standing next to a predator that had chosen not to hunt. "I'll get you everything you need," he said. "Full access, no interference. Whatever resources you require. I just need time. And quiet. And for those 4 soldiers to understand that what happened today wasn't about me. It wasn't, no." Maya picked up her tablet, brushed off the dust that had settled during the confrontation. It was about every woman who ever walked into a room and was treated like she didn't belong. Every person who was judged by how they looked instead of what they could do. Every quiet, invisible, underestimated person who got tired of being dismissed. She moved toward the workstation she'd been heading to before Vance interrupted her. "I could have stopped them," she said, not looking back. "The moment Vance grabbed my arm, I could have ended it. 4 men, 6 seconds. I've done it before." "Why didn't you?" "Because violence was their answer, not mine. Not anymore." Maya began typing, pulling up system logs with practiced efficiency. "They wanted me to fight back so they could justify what they were doing. They wanted resistance so they could escalate. Instead, I let them show everyone exactly who they really were. Everyone. There was no one else in the room. Reeves was recording. Tate felt his stomach drop. The video. I know you deleted it from his phone, but he said he uploaded it somewhere first, a private server. Maya's typing never slowed. I'll need to find that server. Why? Because evidence of their behavior properly handled is more valuable than vengeance. She finally looked at him. Those 4 soldiers aren't monsters. They're products of a system that told them power meant taking what you wanted. If I destroy them, the system learns nothing. If I show them what they did and give them a chance to change, maybe the system learns something. And if they don't change, then the evidence is still there. Maya's eyes hardened slightly. And so am I. Tate watched her work for a long moment, watching the way her fingers flew across the keyboard with a speed and precision that suggested years of training. Not IT training, intelligence training, the kind that let you navigate systems networks and defenses like they were made of paper. Is there anything else I should know? He asked. Maya paused, considered the question. 3 years ago, when my team was compromised, someone on our side was responsible. An intelligence leak from inside our network. We never found who it was. And you think that same leak might be operating here? I think the pattern is similar. The methods are similar, and the type of information being sold. She turned to face him fully. It's the same classification level, the same access requirements, the same operational signatures. You think it's the same person? I think it's possible. And if it is, that means someone who helped kill my team is working in this building, walking these halls, pretending to be one of us. Tate felt the weight of that settle over him. The knowledge that somewhere in his facility someone might be selling secrets to enemies. Someone who'd already cost American lives, and might cost more. What happens when you find them? Maya's fingers resumed their dance across the keyboard. That depends on them. The sun was setting over Fort Dominion when Staff Sergeant Mills finally tracked down Specialist Derek Vance. He found him in the enlisted quarters, sitting on his bunk, staring at the wall like he was watching something replay that only he could see. You want to tell me what the hell happened today? Vance didn't look up. I don't know. You don't know Tate is demanding a full inquiry. The base commander has been briefed. There are people with clearances I've never even heard of asking questions about your conduct. Mills sat down on the opposite bunk. And you don't know. She was supposed to be nobody. Vance's voice sounded hollow. Empty. A contractor. A civilian tech. Someone we could push around because she wasn't really one of us. And she's not nobody. Vance finally looked at his supervisor. His eyes had a haunted quality that Mills had only seen in combat veterans. Did you see her back? Did anyone tell you about her back? I've been told it's classified. There were coordinates, GPS coordinates, burned into her skin, like she'd done it to herself. Vance swallowed hard. What kind of person does that to themselves? Someone who's been through something you can't imagine. She stood there. Vance's voice caught. When we did what we did, she just stood there, like it didn't matter, like we were nothing. Maybe you were. The words hit Vance like a physical blow. What? You thought you were in control. You thought you were the predator. But you weren't, were you? Mills leaned forward. She let you do what you did. She chose not to stop you. And now you're sitting here realizing that the whole time you were nothing but prey that didn't know it was being hunted. Vance was silent for a long moment. Then, what's going to happen to me? That depends. On what? On whether you learn anything from this. Mills stood up. You've got a meeting tomorrow. 0800 hours. Sergeant Major's office. They're going to give you a choice. Admit what you did, accept responsibility, prove you can be better, or deny it, and let the system do what it does. What would you do? Mills looked at the young soldier who'd thought he was invincible just 12 hours ago. The soldier who'd learned today that the universe had a way of teaching humility to people who forgot their place in it. I'd remember her face, Mills said. The woman you tried to break. I'd remember that she could have destroyed you and chose not to, and I'd spend the rest of my career being worthy of that mercy. He walked out, leaving Vance alone with his thoughts. And in Building 7, Maya Chen worked through the night tracing digital footprints and mapping network connections, searching for the traitor who'd cost her everything. The hunt had begun. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. 3 a.m. The building was empty except for the night security patrol and the ghosts she carried with her everywhere. 6 faces. 6 names. 6 people who trusted her to bring them home. She'd memorized the server logs from the past 8 months. Patterns were emerging. Someone had been accessing classified files at irregular intervals, always from different terminals, always during shift changes when oversight was minimal. Whoever was doing this understood military protocols, understood how to hide. But Maya understood hunting. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tate. Can't sleep, coming in. She didn't respond. Didn't need to. 5 minutes later, the door opened and he walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. You've been at this for 18 hours, he said, setting 1 cup beside her. I've gone longer. That's not something to brag about. Maya took the coffee without looking away from her screen. I found something. Tate pulled up a chair. What? The leak isn't random. There's a schedule. Every 3 weeks on the second Tuesday, someone accesses the classified network between 2200 and 400 hours. The access points rotate, but the timing is consistent. Second Tuesday. Tate ran the calculation. That's tomorrow night. Tonight, technically. Can you trace who's doing it? Not yet. They're using rotating credentials, different login each time, all belonging to personnel who were off base when the access occurred. Maya finally turned to face him. Someone is stealing identities, building a library of credentials to use when the real owners can't be blamed. That's sophisticated. That's intelligence training. The words hung between them. Intelligence training meant someone with skills similar to Maya's own, someone who'd been taught to operate in the shadows. Someone dangerous. You think it's one of ours? Tate asked. A former operative. I think it's someone who knows how we work, how we think, how we hide. Maya's jaw tightened. The same profile as the leak that killed my team. You really think it could be the same person? I think coincidences like this don't happen. I think someone learned how to compromise classified operations 3 years ago, and they're still doing it. Her voice dropped. I think my team died because I wasn't good enough to catch them, and I think I've been given a second chance. Tate studied her face. The exhaustion was there, buried under layers of determination that most people wouldn't recognize as pain. What do you need? Access to personnel files. Everyone with the technical capability to do this. Security clearances, deployment histories, financial records. That's a lot of people. Then I'll work fast. Tate nodded and reached for his phone. I'll make some calls. One more thing. Maya's voice stopped him. Those 4 soldiers. Vance and the others. What's happening with them? Confined to quarters. Investigation pending. I want to talk to them. Tate blinked. After what they did, because of what they did. Maya turned back to her screen. I need to understand something. Understand what? Whether they can be saved, or whether they're already lost. The morning sun was just breaking over the Texas horizon when Maya walked into the administrative building where the 4 soldiers were being held. Tate had arranged the meeting, though he'd made it clear he thought it was a mistake. The room was small, institutional. 4 chairs on one side of a metal table, 1 chair on the other. Maya took the single chair and waited. They brought Vance in first. He looked different than he had the day before. The swagger was gone. The cruel confidence had evaporated. What was left was a young man who'd looked into an abyss and found it looking back. "Sit down," Maya said. Vance sat. His hands were trembling slightly. "I didn't know. Didn't know who you were, what you'd done. You thought I was nobody." Maya's voice was flat, not angry, just stating facts. "You thought I was someone you could hurt without consequences." "Yes." The word came out like a confession. "Why?" Vance's mouth opened, then closed. He tried again. I don't know. That's not good enough." Maya leaned forward. "I'm going to ask you again, and I want you to really think about your answer. Why did you target me?" The silence stretched. Maya could see Vance's mind working, struggling to articulate something he'd never been forced to examine. "Because you were alone," he finally said. "Because you were small. Because you looked like you wouldn't fight back." He swallowed hard. "Because I was angry, and you were there." "Angry about what?" "I got passed over for promotion. Twice. They said I wasn't ready. Said I needed to work on my leadership skills." A bitter laugh escaped him. "Guess they were right. So you decided to prove you were powerful by hurting someone weaker." "When you say it like that, there's no other way to say it." Maya's eyes bore into his. "You wanted to feel big, so you tried to make me feel small. That's not strength. That's cowardice wearing a uniform." Vance flinched like she'd slapped him. "But here's what I don't understand." Maya's voice softened just slightly. "You had a choice. Every step of the way, you had a choice. When I showed you my credentials, you could have let me work. When I tried to leave, you could have let me go. When I said stop, you could have stopped." She paused. "Why didn't you?" "Because I thought I could get away with it." The honesty of the answer surprised them both. "And now?" Maya asked. "Now I know I can't." Vance's voice cracked. "Now I know that every quiet person I've ever dismissed might be someone like you. Someone with scars I can't see. Someone carrying things I can't imagine." He looked up at her, and for the first time, Maya saw something genuine in his eyes. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know sorry doesn't undo what I did. But I need you to know that I am." Maya was quiet for a long moment. 3 years ago, she wouldn't have cared about his apology. 3 years ago, she would have seen him as an obstacle to be removed, not a person to be understood. But 3 years ago, she'd been someone else. "I'm not going to destroy your career," she said finally. "I could, but I won't." Relief flooded Vance's face. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm not doing this for you." Maya stood up. "I'm doing this because I've seen what happens when people aren't given a chance to change. They become what they were always afraid of becoming." She walked toward the door, then paused. "You have one chance. One. Use it to become someone worth saving. Or I will personally ensure that your next mistake is your last." She didn't wait for his response. Reeves was next. The baby-faced private who'd recorded everything on his phone. He looked even younger than she remembered, barely old enough to shave, and he was crying before Maya even sat down. "I'm sorry," he blubbered. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was just filming because I thought it was funny, and then it wasn't funny anymore, and I couldn't stop it, and—" "Breathe," Maya said. Reeves sucked in air like he was drowning. "The video you uploaded, where is it? I deleted it." You uploaded it to a private server before you deleted it from your phone. Where's the server? Reeves went pale. How did you know? I know everything. Where is it? It's a Discord server. Me and some buddies from basic training. We share stuff sometimes. Stupid stuff. I posted it there before Chief Tate made me delete it from my phone. I need access to that server. I can give you the login. I can delete the video. You won't delete anything. Maya's voice hardened. You'll give me access, and I'll handle it. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure that video never surfaces, and you're going to learn something about the difference between entertainment and exploitation. Reeves nodded frantically. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say, ma'am. One more thing. Maya leaned forward. That video you took of me, did you ever stop to think about what you were recording? I thought it was just, you thought it was just a woman being humiliated, something to laugh at with your friends. Maya's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Did it ever occur to you that I might be a person, that I might have a family, that I might carry things you couldn't begin to understand? No. The word came out broken. I didn't think about any of that. That's the problem. Maya stood up. You didn't think. You saw something that looked like entertainment, and you never stopped to ask whether it should be entertaining. She walked to the door. Think about that the next time you point your camera at someone. Webb was third. The big one. The one who'd held her arms while Vance tore at her clothes. He didn't look at her when he sat down. His massive frame seemed smaller somehow, contracted inward, like he was trying to disappear. Look at me, Maya said. He raised his eyes. They were red-rimmed, haunted. Why did you help them? Vance told me to. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Webb's voice was rough. Vance said hold her, so I held her. That's how it works. Following orders? Yeah. Is that what you'll say at your court-martial? That you were just following orders? Webb's jaw tightened. There's going to be a court-martial. That depends on what happens in this room. Maya studied him. You're stronger than Vance, bigger, more capable. You could have stopped him at any point. Why didn't you? Because... Webb struggled for words. Because that's not how it works. You don't go against your team. You don't break rank. Even when your team is doing something wrong. Especially then. He finally met her eyes. That's what they teach us. Unit cohesion. Trust your brothers. Follow the chain of command. They teach you to assault women. No. Then something broke in that training. Somewhere between follow orders and tear off a woman's clothes, you made a choice that wasn't in any manual. Maya leaned forward. Own that choice. Don't hide behind, I was just following orders. That excuse stopped working at Nuremberg. Webb flinched at the comparison. I'm not a Nazi. No, you're a soldier who forgot what the uniform is supposed to mean. Maya's voice softened just barely. But you can remember, if you want to. How? By never doing this again. By speaking up the next time someone suggests something wrong. By being the person who breaks the chain instead of the one who makes it stronger. Webb nodded slowly. I can do that. We'll see. Keller was last. The one who'd objected. The one who'd almost done the right thing. He sat down across from Maya with an expression she recognized. Shame. Not the fresh shame of the others, but something older, deeper. The shame of someone who'd known better and done nothing anyway. You tried to stop them, Maya said. Trying isn't the same as doing. No, it's not, she studied his face. Why did you back down? Because Vance threatened to put me on report. Because standing up for you would have meant trouble for me. Because I calculated the cost and decided you weren't worth it. Keller's voice was bitter, but the bitterness was directed at himself. I told myself that it wasn't my problem, that you were a civilian and civilians don't really count, that what was happening wasn't that bad. Was it? You know it was. Maya nodded slowly. You're different from the others. How? They didn't know what they were doing was wrong. They'd convinced themselves it was just fun, just boys being boys, just normal military hazing. Maya paused. You knew? You knew it was wrong and you made a choice anyway. Keller looked like she'd stabbed him. I know. That makes you more guilty than them, and less. I don't understand. More guilty because you knew better. Less guilty because the fact that you knew means you can actually change. Maya leaned forward. The others have to learn what right and wrong mean. You just have to find the courage to act on what you already know. How do I do that? I can't tell you that. No one can. Maya stood up. But I can tell you this the next time you see something wrong, and you feel that hesitation, that calculation about whether it's worth the cost, remember this moment. Remember how it felt to look me in the eye and know that you could have stopped what happened, and then make a different choice. Keller was silent for a long moment. Then, I will. I hope so. Maya walked out of the administrative building and into the morning sun. Tate was waiting for her, leaning against a Humvee with his arms crossed. How'd it go? They're not monsters. Maya walked past him toward Building 7. They're just people who forgot how to be human. Maybe they can remember. And if they can't, then they'll face consequences. She paused. But I believe in second chances. I have to. Why? Maya turned to face him. The sun caught the edge of her cardigan, and for just a moment Tate could see the shadow of scars beneath the fabric. Because someone gave me one once. When I walked out of Syria with a bullet in my spine and nothing left to live for, someone gave me a reason to keep going. Her voice dropped. I owe it to them to pass that on. Who? My team leader. The last thing he said to me before they killed him was survive and make it matter. Maya's eyes glistened, but no tears fell. I've spent 3 years trying to figure out what that means. Maybe this is part of it. Tate didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. Sometimes silence was the only appropriate response to pain that deep. They walked back to Building 7 in that silence. Maya went straight to her workstation and started pulling up the personnel files Tate had arranged access to. Tonight, she said. The leak will access the network tonight, between 0200 and 0400. You're going to be here. I'm going to be watching. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. And when they make their move, I'm going to catch them. What if they don't show? They'll show. Maya's voice carried absolute certainty. 3 weeks is their pattern. They won't deviate. How can you be sure? Because I understand them. She pulled up a list of names, 57 personnel with the technical access to be the leak. They're disciplined, methodical. They've been doing this for months without getting caught because they stick to their pattern. They won't change now. Unless they know you're here. Maya paused. The thought had occurred to her. If the leak knew someone was hunting them, they might go dark. Disappear. Wait until the threat passed. Then we make sure they don't know. How? By making sure everything looks normal. Maya turned to face Tate. Tonight you're going to run a regular shift. No extra security. No unusual activity. Nothing that suggests we're expecting anything. And you, I'll be invisible. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. It's what I do. The day passed slowly. Maya worked through the personnel files, building profiles, eliminating suspects, narrowing the list. 43 people didn't have the technical skills. 7 had alibis for at least one of the breach windows. 4 were deployed overseas during the most recent access. That left 3. Master Sergeant Thomas Burke, Signals Intelligence Specialist, 22 years of service, multiple deployments, access to every system on the base. Captain Jennifer Walsh, Communications Officer, 10 years of service, responsible for network security protocols, would know exactly how to bypass them. Staff Sergeant Michael Torres, Systems Administrator, 15 years of service, the person who maintained the servers Maya was using right now. 3 suspects, 1 traitor. Maya stared at their faces on her screen. One of these people had sold secrets that got American soldiers killed. One of them might be connected to the leak that destroyed her team in Syria. Tonight, she would find out which one. At 2200 hours, she positioned herself in a maintenance closet adjacent to the main server room. A laptop connected to the facility's internal network. A clear view of the corridor through a gap in the door. Coffee. Patience. The hours crawled by. Midnight. 100. 30. At 0147. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Maya held her breath. Through the gap, she watched a figure approach the server room door. Male. Average height. Moving with the careful deliberation of someone who didn't want to be noticed. The figure entered a code. The door clicked open. He slipped inside. Maya waited 60 seconds. Then she opened her laptop and began tracking his access. The intrusion was elegant, professional. He used stolen credentials to access the classified network, navigated directly to the files he wanted, and began copying them to an external device. Maya recorded everything. Every keystroke, every file accessed, every second of the intrusion. Then she stepped out of the closet and walked to the server room door. She entered silently. The figure was hunched over a terminal, his back to her, completely absorbed in his work. Maya watched him for a moment, watched the way his fingers moved across the keyboard, watched the tension in his shoulders, watched the profile of his face reflected in the monitor. "Hello, Sergeant Torres." He spun around his hand, going for a weapon that wasn't there. His eyes were wide, terrified. "How did you—" "I know everything." Maya stepped closer. "I know about the pattern. 3 weeks. 2nd Tuesday. I know about the stolen credentials. I know about the external device in your pocket." She stopped 2 feet away from him. "What I don't know is why." Torres's face cycled through denial, then calculation, then something that looked almost like relief. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." He stared at her for a long moment. Then his shoulders slumped. "Money. It was always about money." "How much?" 10,000 per delivery. More for high-value targets. His voice was hollow. "I have a daughter. Medical bills. The kind of debt that doesn't go away." "So you sold secrets that got people killed?" "I didn't know anyone would die." Torres's voice cracked. "They told me it was just intelligence, information. They never said anyone would get hurt." "They lied." Maya's voice was ice. 3 years ago, an operation was compromised by an intelligence leak. 6 people died. My team. My family. She stepped closer, and Torres flinched like she'd struck him. "Was that you? I don't know what operation you're talking about." "Syria, 2021. Operation Blackwater Crossing." Torres's face went pale. "I never leaked anything about Syria." "But you know who did." It wasn't a question. Maya could see it in his eyes. The knowledge. The guilt. "Who?" she demanded. "I can't. Who gave them my team's location?" Torres was shaking now. "If I tell you, they'll kill me." "If you don't tell me, I'll kill you myself." The words came out flat. Certain. Not a threat, a promise. Torres looked into her eyes and saw something there that convinced him she meant it. Burke, he whispered. Master Sergeant Burke. He's been doing this longer than me. 10 years at least. He's the one who recruited me. Where is he now? I don't know. He moves around, uses different locations. How do you contact him? Dead drop, outside the East Gate. He checks it every Thursday. Maya processed this. Burke was the primary target. Torres was just a link in the chain. You're going to help me catch him. He'll know. If I do anything different, he'll know something's wrong. Then don't do anything different. Maya pulled out her phone and began recording. You're going to continue exactly as planned. Finish your access. Make your delivery. And on Thursday, you're going to leave a message at that dead drop. A message that will bring Burke out of hiding. What kind of message? You're going to tell him you've been compromised, that someone is asking questions, that you need to meet in person to discuss exit strategies. Torres swallowed hard. And if he doesn't come? He'll come. Maya's voice carried absolute certainty. Men like Burke don't abandon assets. They eliminate them. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I'm counting on that. You're using me as bait. I'm giving you a chance to undo some of the damage you've done. Maya stepped back. Take it or don't. But if you try to warn Burke, if you try to run, if you do anything other than exactly what I tell you, I will make sure you spend the rest of your life in a cell so deep they'll need GPS to find you. Torres nodded slowly. I'll do it. Good. Maya walked toward the door. Finish your access. Leave everything exactly as you found it. And Torres, yeah, if I find out you had anything to do with what happened to my team, our next conversation will be very different. And she walked out into the corridor, leaving Torres alone with his guilt and his fear. The hunt wasn't over. It was just beginning. Thursday came with a tension that Maya could feel in her bones. Torres had made the dead drop as instructed, leaving a message that would either draw Burke out of hiding or spook him into disappearing forever. She'd spent the past 2 days preparing. Surveillance positions mapped, escape routes identified, backup plans layered on backup plans. This wasn't her first time hunting a traitor, but it might be her last chance to find the one who'd killed her team. Tate found her in Building 7 at 0500, staring at satellite imagery of the area around the East Gate. You sleep at all? Enough. That's not an answer. Maya looked up from her screen. I slept. 2 hours. It's enough. Tate shook his head, but didn't argue. He'd learned that pushing Maya Chen was like pushing a boulder uphill. Possible, but rarely worth the effort. Burke hasn't been seen on base for 3 days, he said instead. Called in sick Monday. No one's heard from him since. He knows something's wrong. How? Torres must have tipped him off, either directly or by changing his behavior enough to raise suspicion. Maya's jaw tightened, which means Burke is either running or setting up a counter-ambush. Which do you think? Burke's been doing this for 10 years. He's not going to run from a vague threat. Maya pulled up Burke's service record. He's going to want to know exactly what went wrong before he makes any moves. So he'll come to the meeting? He'll come, but not the way we expect. Maya stood up and grabbed her jacket. I need to change the plan. What kind of change? Torres was supposed to meet Burke at 1400 at the abandoned warehouse near the East Gate. That's where Burke will expect surveillance. Maya moved toward the door. So I'm going to be somewhere else. Where? Torres's apartment. Tate's eyebrows shot up. You think Burke will go there? Burke doesn't trust anyone. He's not going to show up at a meeting that might be compromised. He's going to want to interrogate Torres first, find out exactly what went wrong. Maya paused at the door. And he's going to do it somewhere private. That's a big assumption. It's what I would do. She left before Tate could argue. Torres lived off base in a small apartment complex that catered to military personnel. Maya arrived at 0700 and picked the lock in under 30 seconds. Old skills, the kind that never really fade. The apartment was exactly what she expected. Sparse furniture, military neatness, photos of a young girl on the refrigerator maybe 8 years old, with Torres's smile and someone else's eyes. The daughter, the medical bills, the reason Torres had betrayed everything he was supposed to believe in. Maya understood desperation. She'd felt it in Syria, crawling through rubble with a bullet in her spine and the screams of her dying team echoing in her ears. Desperation made people do terrible things, but understanding wasn't the same as forgiveness. She found a position in the bedroom closet with a clear sightline to the living room and settled in to wait. Hours passed. Maya didn't move, didn't check her phone, didn't let her mind wander. She'd learned patience in places where distraction meant death. At 1347, the apartment door opened. Torres walked in first, his movements stiff with fear. Behind him came a figure Maya recognized from surveillance photos. Master Sergeant Thomas Burke, late 40s, gray at the temples, the kind of face that blended into crowds and disappeared from memory, except for his eyes. His eyes were cold in a way that Maya recognized, the eyes of someone who'd stopped seeing other people as people a long time ago. "Sit down." Burke's voice was soft, almost gentle. Torres sat on the couch, his hands clasped between his knees, like a child waiting for punishment. "Tell me everything," Burke said. "There's a woman, a contractor. She was asking questions about network access patterns, about the breach schedule." "What kind of contractor?" "IT security. At least that's what her credentials say." Torres swallowed hard. "But she's not normal. The way she moves, the way she talks. She's trained." "Trained how?" "Like us. Maybe better." Burke was silent for a moment. "Describe her." "Small, Asian, young, maybe mid-20s. Wears glasses, keeps her head down, looks like nobody." Torres's voice dropped. "But she's not nobody. She caught me in the server room, knew exactly what I was doing before I even saw her coming." "And you told her about me?" Torres flinched. "She was going to turn me in. I had to give her something." "So you gave her my name." "I'm sorry. I didn't have a choice." Burke walked slowly around the living room, his footsteps measured and deliberate. "There's always a choice. You could have kept your mouth shut and taken your chances with the investigation. You could have run. You could have killed yourself before compromising an asset." He stopped in front of Torres. "Instead, you chose betrayal. I have a daughter. I know about your daughter." Burke's voice hardened. "I know about her condition. I know about the experimental treatments that insurance won't cover. I know you've been sending money to a hospital in Houston every month for the past 2 years." He leaned closer. "I know everything about you, Torres. That's why I recruited you in the first place." Torres's face crumpled. "Then you understand why I understand that you're a liability now." Burke reached into his jacket. "And I don't tolerate liabilities." Maya moved before Burke's hand cleared his jacket. She came out of the closet like a shadow detaching from darkness, crossing the distance in 3 strides. Burke was fast, military-trained reflexes. He spun toward the movement weapon, rising. But Maya was faster. She caught his wrist before the gun could align, twisted it at an angle that human joints weren't designed to accommodate, and felt the satisfying pop of tendons giving way. The weapon clattered to the floor. Burke didn't scream, didn't even flinch. He drove his knee toward her midsection instead, using the pain to fuel a counterattack. Maya blocked with her hip and delivered an elbow strike to his solar plexus. Air rushed out of his lungs. She followed with a palm strike to his chin that snapped his head back and dropped him to his knees. 3 seconds. That's all it took. "Stay down," Maya said. Burke laughed. Blood was leaking from his split lip, but he laughed like he'd just heard the best joke of his life. "You're her, aren't you? The ghost from Syria?" His eyes found hers, and something like recognition flickered there. "I heard rumors. An operative who walked out of Blackwater Crossing. Everyone said it was impossible. And yet here I am." "Here you are." Burke's smile was bloody and terrible. "Do you know how long I've been waiting for this? Waiting for someone to catch me 10 years of selling secrets and not one person came close. Until you. You sound almost happy about it." "I'm relieved." Burke's voice dropped. "This life gets heavy. You carry too many secrets and eventually you start forgetting who you were before you started lying." Maya kicked him in the ribs. Not hard enough to break anything, just hard enough to remind him who was in control. "I'm not here to give you absolution. I'm here for answers. About Syria. About my team." Burke's smile faded. "Blackwater Crossing wasn't me. Torres said you were responsible. Torres is a frightened man who would say anything to save himself." Burke shifted on the floor, trying to find a less painful position. "I've been selling intelligence for 10 years, but I don't do operations. I don't target specific units. I pass information and let the buyers decide what to do with it. Someone targeted my team. Someone knew exactly where we'd be and when. Then someone else leaked that information." Burke's eyes met hers. "I'm not the only traitor in the building. I'm not even the most dangerous one." Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "I mean there's someone above me. Someone who coordinates the leaks, decides what information has value, makes sure the right buyers get the right intelligence." Burke's voice dropped. "I've never met them. Never even heard their voice. But I know they exist because the instructions come from somewhere." "Who is it?" "I don't know. That's the truth." Burke held up his good hand. "They communicate through encrypted channels. Different protocols every time. Whoever they are, they're better at this than I am." Maya's mind raced. A mole above Burke. Someone with higher access. Someone who'd been running this operation from the shadows while Burke and Torres took all the risks. "How do you contact them?" "I don't. They contact me. Once a month I receive instructions. Targets, deadlines, payment amounts. I follow the instructions and money appears in an offshore account." Burke shifted again. "I've been trying to figure out who they are for years. Never even came close." "You're lying." "I'm not." Burke's voice carried conviction. "Why would I protect them now you've caught me? My career is over. My freedom is over. I have nothing left to protect." Maya wanted to believe he was lying. Wanted to believe that Burke was the end of the chain that catching him would close the circle that started in Syria 3 years ago. But her instincts told her he was telling the truth. "Syria," she said. 3 years ago. My team was ambushed because someone leaked our location. If it wasn't you, who was it? I told you I don't know who's above me." "Then give me something else. Something I can use." Burke was quiet for a long moment. His breath came in ragged gasps, and Maya could see him calculating his options. Cooperation might mean a reduced sentence. Resistance meant nothing but pain. "There's a protocol," he said finally. "When something sensitive happens, when a leak has significant consequences, the contact reaches out directly, not through normal channels, through a secondary system." "What kind of system?" "Phone calls, untraceable, voice modulated. But there's a pattern." Burke's eyes found hers. "They always call within 48 hours of a major event, always between 200 and 400, always on secure networks." Maya felt her heart accelerate. "How do you trigger a call?" "You don't. They call you. When they want to." "But major events trigger contact." "Usually." Maya looked at Torres, who'd been frozen on the couch since the fight started. "You. The access you made Tuesday night. Was that a major event?" Torres nodded shakily. "High-value target list. Deployment schedules for 3 special operations units. Then they'll call, soon. Maya turned back to Burke. How do I intercept that call? You can't. The encryption is military grade. Better than military grade. But you receive it somewhere. There has to be a terminal, a device, something physical. Burke hesitated. Maya could see the calculation in his eyes. Whatever he was about to tell her was valuable, maybe valuable enough to trade for something. My quarters, on-base housing. There's a secure terminal in the closet, hidden behind a false panel. His voice dropped. The calls come through there. You're going to show me. I can't walk. You dislocated my knee. Maya looked at his leg. He was right. The joint was already swelling. Torres. She didn't look away from Burke. Help him up. We're going to his quarters. What about the meeting, the warehouse? Forget the warehouse. The real target isn't Burke. It's whoever's above him. Torres struggled to lift Burke, who was heavier than he looked. Maya retrieved Burke's weapon and tucked it into her waistband. Move, she said. They moved. Getting Burke across the base without attracting attention wasn't easy. Maya called Tate and had him meet them with a vehicle explaining the situation in clipped sentences while they walked. You're telling me there's another mole? Tate's voice crackled through the phone. Someone above Burke. Someone who's been running this whole operation. Burke's just a middle manager. Jesus. I need access to Burke's quarters, now, without anyone knowing we're there. I can arrange that. Give me 20 minutes. 22 minutes later, they were inside Burke's on-base housing. Maya found the hidden panel exactly where Burke said it would be. Behind it was a terminal that shouldn't exist on any military base, custom-built air-gapped from the main network running encryption protocols that made Maya's eyebrows rise. Where did you get this equipment? It was provided, same as everything else. Burke was propped against the wall, his face gray with pain. I don't know where it came from. Maya powered up the terminal and began examining its configuration. The system was elegant, sophisticated, designed by someone who understood both technology and tradecraft at the highest levels. Whoever built this is a professional, she said quietly. Told you. They're better at this than I am. Maya pulled up the call logs, dates, times, durations, but no identifying information, no numbers, no traces that could be followed back to a source. When was the last call? Tuesday, right after Torres's access. What did they say? They wanted to know if the operation was still secure, if there were any signs of investigation. Burke's voice wavered. I told them no, everything was normal. But it wasn't. I didn't know about you yet. Maya studied the terminal's interface. There had to be a way to trace the next call, some vulnerability in the system that she could exploit. Then she saw it. A tiny irregularity in the encryption protocol. A timestamp that didn't quite match. Someone had modified this terminal recently within the past 48 hours, and they'd left a fingerprint. Tate. Maya didn't look away from the screen. I need your technical people, someone who specializes in communication intercepts. I can have someone here in an hour. Make it 30 minutes. And Tate, yeah. This terminal was modified 2 days ago, after Torres's access, which means someone knew about the investigation before I caught Torres. Maya turned to face him. Someone on this base tipped them off. The silence stretched. Tate's face went through several expressions before settling on controlled fury. You're saying we have a third leak. I'm saying whoever's running this operation has eyes everywhere, and they know I'm here. Tate's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face went pale. What? Maya demanded. Torres. Tate held up the phone. His daughter. She was just admitted to the hospital in Houston. Cardiac emergency. Torres made a sound like a wounded animal. No, that's not possible. She was stable. The doctor said, "When was she admitted?" Tate checked. 20 minutes ago. Maya's blood went cold. 20 minutes ago was exactly when they'd left Torres's apartment with Burke. Someone had been watching. Someone had seen Torres cooperate with her. And now they were sending a message. "It's them," Maya said. "The contact. They're punishing Torres for betraying Burke." "They can't know already. We haven't told anyone." "They don't need to be told. They're watching." Maya's mind raced through the implications. Every move we make, they see. Every decision, they anticipate. Torres was crying now. "My daughter, my baby girl, I have to—" "You can't go to Houston. That's what they want. The moment you show up at that hospital, you become leverage. She's my daughter, and she'll be dead the moment you're no longer useful." Maya's voice was brutal, but she needed him to understand. "Right now they're using her to control you. If you cooperate, she lives. If you don't—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Torres collapsed against the wall, his face buried in his hands. The sounds that came out of him weren't quite sobs. They were something deeper. The sound of a man watching everything he loved being torn apart because of choices he'd made years ago. Maya watched him for a moment. She understood that pain. She'd felt it in Syria, watching her team die one by one while she lay helpless in the rubble. The agony of knowing that your decisions had consequences that destroyed the people you loved. But sympathy wouldn't help his daughter. Action would. "Tate, I need security on that hospital. Armed personnel. No one in or out without verification. I can coordinate with local law enforcement, not local, military, people we can trust." "I don't know if we can trust anyone right now." "Then trust me." Maya's eyes locked with his. "I'm the only person on this base who isn't compromised, because I'm the only person who just arrived." Tate hesitated. Then he nodded and started making calls. Maya turned back to the terminal. Somewhere in this machine was a trail that would lead her to the person running the operation. The person who'd been selling American secrets for years. The person who might have killed her team in Syria. She just had to find it before they found her. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Code scrolled past. Encryption layers peeled away one by one. And then buried in a hidden partition that shouldn't exist, she found something that made her stop breathing. A file. Encrypted with protocols she recognized. Protocols that had been developed by the CIA for their most sensitive black operations. Protocols that only someone inside Langley would have access to. Maya stared at the screen for a long moment. Her hands were shaking. The traitor wasn't some foreign agent, wasn't some disgruntled soldier looking for money. The traitor was CIA, and they'd been hunting her since the moment she walked out of Syria alive. Maya's fingers hovered over the keyboard. The file glowed on the screen like a wound that wouldn't close. CIA encryption. CIA protocols. CIA signature buried in code that only someone with agency access could have created. 3 years ago, she'd walked out of Syria believing that her team had been betrayed by foreign intelligence, that some enemy had compromised their mission, that the people who killed her family were on the other side. She'd been wrong. The enemy was inside the house. "Maya," Tate's voice cut through the silence. "You find something?" She didn't answer immediately. Her mind was racing through implications, connections, patterns that suddenly made terrible sense. Why had Operation Blackwater Crossing been compromised so thoroughly? Why had the enemy known exactly where her team would be, exactly when they'd arrive, exactly how many operators and what equipment they'd bring, because someone on the inside had told them everything? "Maya," she turned to face Tate. Her expression must have shown something because he took a step back. "What is it? The traitor. The one running this whole operation." Maya's voice came out flat. dead. They're CIA. Tate's face went through several colors before settling on gray. That's not possible. I'm looking at the proof right now. Agency encryption protocols, the kind that only someone at Langley would have access to. Maya turned back to the screen. Someone inside the CIA has been selling American secrets for at least a decade. And 3 years ago, they sold my team to the enemy. You're sure? I'm sure. The room went silent. Even Torres stopped his quiet crying to stare at Maya with something like horror. Burke laughed from his position against the wall. A wet, broken sound. I told you, someone bigger, someone you couldn't imagine. Shut up, Maya's voice cracked like a whip. You think catching me matters? You think any of this matters? Burke's eyes were wild now. Whoever's running this operation has been doing it longer than you've been alive. They've got connections in every agency, every department, every level of government. You're not hunting a traitor. You're hunting a spider sitting at the center of a web that spans the entire intelligence community. I said shut up. They knew you'd come eventually. They've been waiting for you. The ghost from Syria, the one who walked out when everyone else died. Burke's smile was bloody and terrible. Why do you think you survived? Why do you think you were allowed to walk away? Maya crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed Burke by the collar. What are you talking about? They could have killed you, in Syria, easily. But they let you go. They gave you a new identity, a new life, and they've been watching you ever since. Burke's voice dropped to a whisper. You're not the hunter. You never were. You're the bait. Maya's blood turned to ice. Bait. She was bait. Her whole assignment at Fort Dominion, her whole investigation had been orchestrated to draw out exactly what she'd found, to force the spider to reveal itself. But who was using her? And for what purpose? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Maya stared at it for a long moment, then answered. Hello, 7. The voice was modulated, artificial, unrecognizable, but the designation sent a shiver down Maya's spine. 7. Her operational number from Syria, the name that was supposed to be buried in classified files that no one could access. Who is this? You know who I am. You've been looking for me for 3 years. Maya's grip on the phone tightened. The mole. Such an ugly word. I prefer architect. I've been building something beautiful, Maya. Something that transcends borders, agencies, allegiances. And you've been walking through my construction site without even knowing it. You killed my team. I reallocated assets. Your team was in the way of a larger objective. Their deaths served a purpose. The voice paused. As will yours eventually. What do you want? Right now, I want to talk. It's been a long time since I've spoken to someone who might actually understand. The modulated voice carried something that might have been loneliness. Do you know what it's like to be the smartest person in every room you enter, to see patterns that no one else can see, to know that the world is broken, and you're the only one who knows how to fix it? You think selling secrets fixes the world? I think the old systems are failing. Nations, governments, ideologies, they're all dinosaurs waiting for the meteor. I'm building something new. A network that transcends all of it. Information flowing freely to those who can use it best. You're a traitor. I'm a visionary, but I don't expect you to understand, not yet. The voice hardened slightly. However, I do expect you to listen, because right now I'm the only thing standing between Torres's daughter and a very painful death. Maya glanced at Torres. His face had gone white. Leave her alone. That depends entirely on you. The voice was calm again. Pleasant, almost. I'm going to give you a choice. Walk away. Leave Fort Dominion. Forget everything you've found. Go back to your quiet civilian life and pretend none of this ever happened. And if I refuse, then the girl dies. Torres dies, Tate dies, everyone you've spoken to, everyone you've trusted, everyone you've allowed yourself to care about, they all die. A pause. And then I come for you. Not to kill you. That would be too quick. I'll destroy everything you've built, everything you believe, everything that makes you who you are. Maya closed her eyes. The weight of the threat pressed down on her like a physical force. She could walk away. Take the deal. Save the people she'd inadvertently endangered. But she'd walked away before. After Syria, she'd accepted a new identity and a quiet life. She'd told herself that she deserved peace, that she'd earned the right to disappear. And every day since she'd carried the ghosts of 6 people who didn't get that choice. No. Excuse me, I said no. Maya opened her eyes. You want to threaten innocent people? Go ahead. You want to come for me? Come. But I'm not walking away. Not this time. Silence on the line. When the voice spoke again, it was different. Colder. You're making a mistake. I've made plenty. One more won't kill me. Actually, it might. The modulated tone dropped. You want to know who I am? Fine. Come find me. I'll be at the place where we first met, where everything started. The line went dead. Maya stared at the phone. The place where we first met. Where everything started. Syria. Whoever this was had been there. In Raqqa. At Blackwater Crossing. They'd watched Maya's team die and done nothing to stop it. Maybe they'd planned it. What did they say? Tate's voice cut through her thoughts. They want me to find them. In Syria. That's insane. You can't go to Syria. I don't have a choice. Maya was already moving gathering equipment, running calculations in her head. If I don't go, they'll kill everyone. Torres's daughter. You. Anyone connected to this investigation. And if you do go, then I find out who's been selling American secrets for 10 years. I find out who killed my team, and I end this. Or they kill you. Maya paused, looked at Tate with eyes that had seen too much death to fear it anymore. Everyone dies eventually. The question is whether your death means something. She picked up Burke's weapon and checked the magazine. My team died for a mission that failed because someone betrayed them. If I die stopping that person, at least their deaths will finally matter. You can't do this alone. I've always been alone. Maya's voice was quiet. Since Syria, since I walked out of that hellhole with a bullet in my spine and no one left to come home to. Alone is all I know. That's not true anymore. Maya stopped, turned to face Tate. He stepped forward. You've got me. You've got the resources of this entire base. You've got people who want to help you because they believe in what you're doing. And all of them will die if I let them come with me. Maybe. Or maybe having backup is the difference between success and failure. Tate's jaw tightened. I spent 20 years in intelligence. I've seen good people die because they tried to be heroes instead of accepting help. Don't be one of them. Maya studied his face. The determination there. The stubborn refusal to let her push him away. Something shifted in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Fine. She turned back to her equipment. But we do this my way. And if I tell you to run, you run. No arguments. No promises. Despite everything, Maya almost smiled. They worked through the night. Tate pulled in resources from contacts he trusted, people outside the normal chain of command. A pilot willing to fly them across international borders without asking questions. A weapons specialist who could provide equipment that didn't officially exist. A communications expert who could help them track the mole's signal if they made contact again. By morning, they had a plan. Rough. Dangerous. full of holes that could get them all killed. But it was a plan. Maya was reviewing their route when her phone buzzed again. Different number this time. She answered. "You're not as alone as I thought." The modulated voice was back. "I'm impressed. Chief Warrant Officer Tate has quite the network." "You're watching us." "I'm always watching. It's what I do." A pause. "I notice you're assembling a team, preparing to come after me. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Often the same thing." The voice carried something like amusement. "I've changed my mind about our meeting location. Syria is too far, too complicated. Let's make this easier. Where Fort Dominion, tonight, Building 12, the old storage facility near the east perimeter." Maya's eyes narrowed. "You're on the base." "I told you, I'm always watching. I've been here for days, moving through the shadows, gathering information, waiting to see what you'd do." The voice dropped. "You've exceeded my expectations. Most people would have run by now. Most people would have taken the deal I offered." "I'm not most people." "No, you're not." Something shifted in the modulated tone, something almost like respect. "Tonight, 2300 hours. Come alone. Bring your questions. Bring your anger. But understand that this conversation will end one of two ways. Either you join me, or you die. There's a third option." "What's that?" "I bring you down." Laughter, cold and mechanical through the voice modulator. "I've survived 20 years of investigations, audits, and internal reviews. I've outlasted 6 CIA directors and 4 presidential administrations. I've built a network that spans the entire intelligence community." A pause. "And you think you can bring me down?" "My team thought they could complete an impossible mission. They were wrong, but they tried anyway. That's what we do. We try." Maya's voice hardened. "Tonight, Building 12. I'll be there." "I know you will." The line went dead. Tate appeared at her shoulder. "Was that the mole? They're here. On the base. They've been watching us the whole time." "That's not possible. Security would have—" "Security didn't catch Burke. Didn't catch Torres. Whoever this is, they're better than your security." Maya started gathering her equipment. "Tonight, Building 12. They want to meet. It's a trap. Obviously. You can't go." "I have to go." Maya checked her weapon. "But I won't be as alone as they think." She explained her plan to Tate. Simple, direct, full of risk, but offering the best chance of catching the mole off guard. Tate listened without interrupting. When she finished, he shook his head. "This is insane." "Got a better idea?" "About a dozen. All of them involve not walking into an obvious ambush. The mole expects me to come alone. They expect me to be scared, angry, desperate. They've been manipulating me since Syria, setting up this exact moment." Maya's eyes met his. "But they don't know that I know. They think they're in control. That's their weakness. And your weakness, I care too much about stopping them." Maya's voice dropped. "I want this too badly. That makes me vulnerable. So don't go. If I don't go, they disappear. They've done it before. Every time someone gets close, they vanish and rebuild somewhere else. New identity, new network, same operation." Maya shook her head. "This is the closest anyone has ever gotten. I can't let them slip away." Tate was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, we do it your way, but I'm going to be close. The moment things go sideways, I'm coming in. If things go sideways, you run. Get the evidence to Langley. Make sure the world knows what happened here. Maya, promise me." Her voice cracked slightly. "I've lost one team already. I can't lose another." Tate looked at her. Really looked. And what he saw there made his chest tight. I promise. The hours until 2300 passed slowly. Maya spent them reviewing everything she knew about the mole. Their methods, their patterns, their psychology. They were arrogant. That much was clear. 20 years without getting caught had convinced them they were untouchable. The phone calls, the threats, the invitation to meet, all of it reeked of overconfidence. But arrogance created blind spots, and blind spots could be exploited. At 22:45, Maya approached Building 12 alone. The storage facility was old, scheduled for demolition, the kind of place where people could disappear without anyone noticing. The perfect location for a final confrontation. She pushed open the door and stepped inside. Right on time. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Speakers hidden in the walls. I appreciate punctuality. Show yourself. In a moment. First, I want you to understand something. The modulated voice echoed through the empty space. I'm not a monster. I don't enjoy killing. Everything I've done has been in service of a larger goal. What goal justifies selling out your own people? The old world is dying. Nations are failing. Governments are corrupt. The only thing that matters anymore is information. Footsteps. Someone moving in the darkness. I've built a system that transcends all of it. A network where information flows to those who can use it best regardless of borders or allegiances. You mean whoever pays the most? Money is just a tool. What I've built is something bigger, a web that connects every intelligence agency, every military, every government. They all feed me information and I distribute it where it will do the most good. Good for who? For humanity. The voice was closer now. Do you know how many wars I've prevented? How many conflicts I've diffused by making sure the right people had the right information at the right time? Do you know how many people you've killed? Silence. Then acceptable losses. Every revolution has casualties. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Maya's breath caught. The mole was a woman. Late 50s. Silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. Features that might have been beautiful once, but had been sharpened by decades of hard choices. And she wore a CIA badge. Hello, Maya. The woman smiled. No modulator now. Her real voice was soft, almost maternal. I've been wanting to meet you for a very long time. Who are you? My name is Victoria Cross, Deputy Director of Operations, CIA. The smile widened. And I'm the woman who killed your team. Maya's hand moved toward her weapon. Victoria Cross raised a finger. I wouldn't. There are 6 operatives in this building. All of them have you in their sights right now. She tilted her head. You could probably take 3 of them before they dropped you. Maybe 4 on a good day, but not all 6. Maya's hand stopped. Deputy Director of Operations, you've been running this from inside Langley the whole time. For 23 years. Victoria stepped closer, her heels clicking against concrete. I was recruited right out of Georgetown, top of my class. The agency saw potential in me. They taught me everything about gathering intelligence, analyzing threats, protecting American interests. And then you betrayed all of it. I evolved beyond it. Victoria's eyes glittered in the dim light. The agency taught me how the world really works, how information is the only currency that matters, how borders are just lines on maps that politicians draw to feel important. She spread her hands. I took those lessons and built something better. You built a network that sells American secrets to the highest bidder. I built a network that transcends nationalities. Every major intelligence service feeds me information. CIA, MI6, Mossad, FSB, MSS. They all think they're using me and I'm using all of them. Victoria smiled. I'm the only person on Earth who sees the complete picture. The only one who knows what's really happening. You're insane. I'm enlightened. There's a difference. Victoria began walking a slow circle around Maya. Do you know why I let you live in Syria? Maya's jaw tightened. Tell me. Because you were special. From the moment I read your psychological profile, I knew you were different from the others. You didn't just follow orders. You questioned them, challenged them. You had a mind that worked like mine. I'm nothing like you. You're exactly like me. 20 years younger and still clinging to outdated concepts like patriotism and duty, but underneath all that conditioning, you're the same. Victoria stopped directly in front of Maya. I've been watching you for 3 years, waiting to see if you'd figure it out, hoping you'd become ready. Ready for what? To join me. The words hung in the air like smoke. You killed my team. Maya's voice shook with barely controlled rage. You murdered 6 people who trusted me, and you think I'm going to join you. I think you're going to listen. Victoria's tone hardened. Your team was a sacrifice, a necessary one. The intelligence they were carrying would have exposed 3 of my best assets in the region. Assets that have prevented more attacks than you can imagine. You don't get to decide who lives and who dies. Someone has to. That's what power means. Victoria leaned closer. Every day intelligence agencies make choices about who to protect and who to abandon. I've simply taken that authority for myself. I make better decisions than committees and politicians. I see further. I know more. You're a murderer. I'm a surgeon. Sometimes you have to cut away diseased tissue to save the body. Victoria stepped back. I'm offering you a choice. Join me. Learn what I know. See the world the way I see it. In 10 years, you could be running operations that shape the future of human civilization. And if I refuse, then you die here, tonight, and the world keeps turning without you. Victoria shrugged. It's not a threat, it's just math. You're either an asset or a liability. I don't have room for liabilities. Maya was silent for a long moment. Her mind raced through options. Attack and die. Accept and betray everything she believed. Or find a third way. Can I ask you something first? Victoria raised an eyebrow. Of course. My team leader, Marcus Webb. Before they killed him, he gave me an order. Survive and make it matter. Maya's voice dropped. Did you know he said that? I watched the footage. One of my assets recorded everything. Then you know what I promised him. I know you made a deathbed vow to a man who was about to die. Emotional. Understandable. But ultimately meaningless. It wasn't meaningless to me. Maya's hand moved again. Not toward her weapon this time. Toward her back. Toward the scar. I burned his coordinates into my skin. I carry them everywhere. Every day. Every minute. Sentiment. Memory. Maya's eyes locked with Victoria's. You want to know the real difference between us. You see people as assets and liabilities, numbers on a spreadsheet. I see them as human beings with families and dreams and futures that matter. And that makes you weak. That makes me human. Maya's voice hardened. 3 years ago, I walked out of Syria because Marcus told me to survive. I've spent every day since then trying to figure out what make it matter means. She took a step forward. Now I know. Enlighten me. It means stopping you. Whatever it takes, whatever it costs. Victoria sighed. I was really hoping you'd be smarter than this. She raised her hand. A signal. Maya moved before the operatives could fire. She'd been tracking their positions since entering the building. 6 shooters, 3 on the upper level, 2 behind shipping containers, 1 near the exit. She dove left as the first shots tore through the space she'd just occupied. Rolled. Came up firing. The operative near the exit went down with 2 rounds to the chest. Maya kept moving, never stopping, never giving them a clean shot. Her training took over, the muscle memory of 1,000 hours of combat drills. Another operative dropped, then another. Victoria was running, moving toward a back exit with the speed of someone who'd stayed in shape despite her age. Maya changed direction, pursued. A shot clipped her shoulder. Pain flared. She ignored it. Pain was just information. Information could be processed later. She caught Victoria at the exit door, grabbed her arm, spun her around. Victoria had a weapon. Small, easily concealed. She brought it up toward Maya's face. Maya blocked with her injured arm. The shot went wide. She drove her palm into Victoria's nose, felt cartilage crunch. Victoria stumbled backward, blood streaming, but she didn't fall. "You think this changes anything?" Victoria's voice was thick, distorted by the broken nose. "Kill me and someone else takes my place. The network survives. It always survives. Then I'll burn the whole thing down." "You can't. It's too big, too spread out. I've spent 23 years building redundancies and fail-safes." Victoria laughed. Blood bubbled at her lips. "You've already lost." "Maybe." Maya raised her weapon. "But you won't be around to see it." "Wait." Victoria's hand came up. "Wait. I can give you something. Something you want." "I don't want anything from you." "Yes, you do." Victoria's eyes found Maya's. "You want to know who betrayed your team, the specific person who gave up their location. I can tell you." Maya's finger tightened on the trigger. "You already told me. It was you." "I gave the order, but I wasn't the one who provided the intelligence." Victoria smiled through the blood. "Someone on your team was feeding me information. Someone you trusted." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. "You're lying." "I never lie about business." Victoria's smile widened. "One of your beloved teammates was working for me. They gave up the team's position in exchange for money. Lots of money. More than they could make in 10 years of government service. Who? Lower your weapon and I'll tell you." Maya's hand shook. Everything she believed about her team, everything she'd mourned for 3 years, all of it suddenly uncertain. "Who?" she demanded again. "Lower the weapon." Maya didn't lower it, but she didn't fire either. The hesitation was enough. Victoria moved, fast, faster than Maya expected. A hidden blade appeared in her hand. She slashed at Maya's throat. Maya jerked back. The blade missed her neck but caught her cheek. A line of fire opened across her face. She fired. The bullet caught Victoria in the chest. Center, mass. Victoria staggered, looked down at the spreading red stain on her silk blouse, then looked up at Maya with something like surprise. "You actually did it." Her voice was fading. "I didn't think you had it in you." "Who betrayed my team?" Victoria laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. "You'll never know now. Tell me. Figure it out yourself." Victoria's legs gave way. She slid down the wall, leaving a red smear behind her. "That's the thing about truth. It's never as clean as you want it to be." "Victoria." But Victoria Cross was gone. Her eyes stared at nothing, her bloody smile frozen in place. Maya stood there for a long moment, weapon still raised, heart pounding, blood dripping from her face onto the concrete floor. One of her team had betrayed them. One of the 6 people she'd loved like family. One of the names she'd mourned every day for 3 years. Which one? The question burned in her mind like acid. Then footsteps. Running, multiple people approaching. Maya spun weapon ready. Tate appeared in the doorway with 4 soldiers behind him. His face cycled through relief, concern, and horror as he took in the scene. "Maya, Jesus, are you okay?" "I'm alive." She lowered her weapon. "The operatives, 2 surrendered, 2 dead. We're securing the building now." Tate moved toward her. "You're bleeding." "I know. You need medical attention." Later, Maya looked down at Victoria's body. She said something before she died. "What?" She said one of my team was working for her, that someone I trusted betrayed us in Syria. Tate's face went still. "Do you believe her?" "I don't know. She was trying to save herself. People say anything when they're desperate." Maya shook her head. "But I can't ignore it. If there's even a chance she was telling the truth. We'll investigate. Access her files, her communications. If she had an asset on your team, there'll be evidence. And if there isn't, then she was lying, and you can put it to rest." Maya nodded slowly, but she knew it wouldn't be that simple. The doubt would always be there now. The question that would never fully go away. She'd killed the woman who ordered her team's death, but she might never know if one of them had helped. Some wounds never fully healed. The next hours blurred together. Medical treatment, debriefings, phone calls to agencies Maya had hoped never to deal with again. Victoria Cross's network was vast, larger than anyone had imagined. It would take years to unravel completely. But the spider was dead, and without her at the center, the web was already starting to collapse. Torres was arrested. Burke was transferred to federal custody. Both of them would spend the rest of their lives in prison. But Torres's cooperation earned him one small mercy. His daughter's medical bills would be covered by a classified fund that no one would ever acknowledge existed. The 4 soldiers who'd assaulted Maya were given the choice she'd promised: court-martial and prison or rehabilitation and a second chance. 3 of them chose the second chance. Vance, surprisingly, was the most committed. Something had broken in him that day in the server room, and what grew in its place was better than what had been there before. A week later, Maya stood outside Building 7 for the last time. Her cheek was bandaged, her shoulder still ached. But she was alive, and the mission was complete. Tate found her there, as the sun was setting. "You're really leaving?" "My work here is done." "You could stay, consult. There's going to be a lot of cleanup from this mess. We could use someone with your skills." Maya almost smiled. "I'm not good at cleanup. I'm good at hunting. And right now there's nothing left to hunt." "What about Victoria's claim about someone on your team?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. "I've been thinking about that, running through every mission, every conversation, every moment I shared with them. And I don't know, maybe she was lying, maybe she wasn't. But I realized something." Maya turned to face Tate. "Even if one of them betrayed us, it doesn't change what the others were. It doesn't erase Marcus's sacrifice, or Chen's courage, or Rodriguez's loyalty. One traitor doesn't define a team." "That's a healthy perspective. It's the only one I can live with." Maya extended her hand. "Thank you. For everything." Tate took it. "What will you do now?" "I don't know. Maybe disappear again. Find another quiet life somewhere." Maya paused. "Or maybe not. Maybe I'm done hiding. If you ever need anything, resources, backup, someone to call at 3 in the morning when the nightmares won't stop." Tate held her hand a moment longer. "I'm here." Maya nodded. Something warm flickered in her chest. Not quite hope, but something close to it. She walked toward the gate. The guard on duty was young, maybe 20. He looked at her credentials, then at her bandaged face, then at something on his screen that made his eyes widen. "Ma'am." His voice cracked slightly. "It's an honor." Just doing my job, Private. No, ma'am. What you did here. What you stopped. He straightened to attention. Everyone's talking about it. The woman who brought down a network that had been operating for 20 years. The ghost from Syria. Maya studied his face. The admiration there. The awe. She remembered being that young once. That certain, before Syria, before the scars. Can I give you some advice, Private? Yes, ma'am. Don't believe everything you hear about heroes. Most of us are just people who didn't have the good sense to quit when we should have. Maya almost smiled. And the ones who seem the quietest usually have the loudest stories. She walked through the gate and into the Texas sunset. Behind her, Fort Dominion hummed with activity. Soldiers trained. Equipment was maintained. The endless work of defense continued without pause. But something had changed. In the way people talked to contractors. In the way they treated the quiet ones who kept their heads down and did their jobs without fanfare. The story of what happened at Building 7 spread through the base in whispers. Not the classified details, just the principle behind them. Respect wasn't something you gave based on appearance. It was something you offered until someone proved they didn't deserve it. And sometimes the person you dismissed as nobody turned out to be the one who saved everyone. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of a classroom at Quantico. 50 new recruits stared at her with the nervous energy of people who didn't know what they'd signed up for. "My name is Maya Chen," she said. "Some of you may have heard stories about me. Forget them. Stories are just words, and words don't mean anything compared to what you're about to learn." She rolled up her sleeves. "Let them see the scars. I'm going to teach you how to survive in situations where survival shouldn't be possible. How to keep going when everything tells you to stop. How to carry the weight of impossible choices and still function." She looked at each face in turn. Young, eager, terrified. "But first I'm going to teach you something more important." Maya's voice dropped. "I'm going to teach you how to see people, really see them, not the uniform they wear, or the badge they carry, or the way they look when they walk into a room." She touched the scar on her cheek, the one Victoria Cross had given her in those final moments. "Because one day, you're going to meet someone who looks like nothing. Someone quiet. Someone small. Someone easy to dismiss." Maya's eyes hardened. "And that person might be the most dangerous thing you've ever encountered. Or they might be the one who saves your life." She stepped forward. "The difference between success and failure in this business isn't strength or speed or firepower. It's attention, the ability to see what others miss, to recognize the warrior hiding inside the wallflower." The recruits were silent, hanging on every word. "I walked 40 miles through enemy territory with a bullet in my spine because someone taught me that survival isn't about physical capability. It's about refusing to quit." Maya paused. "I'm going to teach you the same thing. And when you're done, you'll understand why the quiet ones are always the most dangerous." She turned to the board behind her and wrote 3 words: see, survive, serve. This is your mission. See what others miss. Survive what others can't. Serve something bigger than yourself. Maya faced the class. "Now, let's begin." The training started that day. 50 recruits who would become operatives. Some would wash out, some would excel, some would die in places the world would never know about. But all of them would remember the small woman with the scars who taught them that appearance meant nothing, and character meant everything. And in the years that followed, as they moved through the shadows of a dangerous world, they would carry her lessons with them, seeing the invisible, recognizing the underestimated, never assuming that quiet meant weak or small meant harmless. Because Maya Chen had taught them the truth that she'd learned in Syria, confirmed at Fort Dominion, and carried in the coordinates burned into her back. The strongest people don't announce their strength. They just survive. And then they make it matter. That was the legacy she left behind, not in classified files or official records, but in the minds of everyone she'd trained, everyone she'd saved, everyone who'd learned that the person serving you coffee, fixing your computer, or standing quietly in the corner might just be the reason you're still breathing. You never know who you're dealing with until it's too late to change your approach. And that's exactly the point.